that with her perspective. Mission Insight is designed that once you log in, you'll have access to an interface that on the left-hand side of the system, you're going to find an ability to come in here, and all of the tools of Mission Insight, including the capabilities of shapes and plotting and demographic reporting, are all found on the left-hand side of the page. Now, about halfway down the left-hand side, there's what's called an assistant. And it used to be that that came up when you first came into the system. It doesn't anymore. But this is where you can do all of the things, but you can also turn this off so it doesn't show up again. People plot. How do I do reports? How do I do a thematic map? How do I do an opportunity scan? So it shows you kind of the foundational tools of Mission Insight through what is called this assistant tool that's right here on the left-hand side. As I walk down this top sedge on the left-hand side, I can collapse this, and then it looks like this. And until you learn the interface, and quite honestly, I still don't have it memorized, you'll want to make sure that you expand that menu, because the purpose of the collapse purpose is so that it doesn't take up space on the map. But you can uncollapse it, and then you've got terminology to tell you what those tools are. And I would tell you to use them because that's a valuable tool. When you go to the home base, this is really where administration is done. And so chances are good you're not going to be spending much time on this side of the fence. That's primarily for Heidi and for folks who set up Mission Insight for Diocese of Mid-Atlantic. When I come into the system, what you're seeing by default right now is the Diocese of Mid-Atlantic base study, which you guys may not even see. You may only see your particular church, your particular parish, and you can see that the shape of the diocese is drawn, and then each one of the churches, each one of the parishes are listed on this page. Navigationally, let me suggest to you that this tool lets me use a mouse or my trackpad, and I can zoom in, I can zoom out, I can hold down my left mouse button, and I can move around. I don't want to make you seasick, but there you go, that ability. And I can again zoom in or zoom out to whatever I want to look at from that particular perspective. And the closer I get, I see everything from mountains. And when I get in close enough to the cities, then I'll actually see the actual buildings that are found on the individual streets. Now, there's a really cool tool that I'll teach you already up front. I could zoom out again if I want to, but I've also got a toolbar on this right-hand side. And that toolbar on this right-hand side has a US map over on this right-hand side. If I want to zoom back out to my reset zoom to where I started this conversation, I just simply click reset the zoom, and now it simply brings me back out to where I started this conversation. So anytime you've zoomed out, zoomed around, looked around on the map, wherever you are, if you've zoomed in or zoomed out, all you have to do is click right back on that, and it'll bring you back home again as far as the reset of zoom. You're going to hear me say about 50 times that in Mission Insight, it's like any other software tool. There are multiple ways to do things. So I told you could use your mouse to zoom in and out. You can use your left mouse button to move the map around. You can also, you'll notice right up here in the top right-hand corner, there's a, guess what, a zoom in or a zoom out over here as well. So there are multiple ways to do that. I'm a mouse person, and I also use my trackpad occasionally. So that's how I zoom in, zoom out. But there are other ways there for people who use different tools. Some people are not mouse people, and they like to use the tools of the system itself. When I go down to the next icon, you'll see view. I can search from here. So I could search for a particular address. Guess what? Another zoom tool from there, and even a reset zoom from there. I can change the look of my map. I can change it from what it is to maps like you would see in Google Maps, grayscale. I rarely change this, but you can if you want to, if that's your perspective and want to make that happen. You can also set the map opacity from here. I rarely do anything with that either, but it gives you that capability. And as you can see, as I change the map opacity, like the interstate signs, you'll notice that that goes and fades out from that perspective. Bringing out those menus is as simple as clicking them either on the word or the X, and it will collapse that menu. So, and that works the same throughout the entire system. Next, let's talk about layers. When I look at layers, the first thing you see here that there is the agency boundary of the diocese. And if I uncheck it, it'll take that box away from being around that. I don't need to an agency boundary, but I could select an overlay style or select labels, which will make sense in about 30 seconds. I could also select from this layer, and by having that box, that arrow pointed, then I can just click and it will let me select that shape. Now, because I selected this now as a shape, it's actually telling me that there is information up here in the top right-hand corner. That little eye started flashing, and you'll use this often because it's telling you what it is that you selected, and you could actually see that. And if you clicked on the legend, you'd see the layer that's selected is the agency boundary. Now, the next tool I want to teach you is how do I unselect that agency boundary. There on the right-hand side is a button that looks like a circle with a line through it. That's to clear, but I can do more than just clear the map. If you'll notice, if I click on that with my left mouse button, I can clear the map, I can clear a shape, I can clear plots, I can clear markers, and I can clear thematic and opportunity scans. So right now I have this shape selected, so I'm just going to say clear the shape, and voila, I'm able to clear a shape that has been selected just like that. So that's a layer, is the agency boundary. The next layer that's there are the agency locations, and guess what? That's the churches, and I can uncheck it and the churches disappear, the parishes disappear. If the A is on it, then that's why you see the names of the churches and the parishes as I log in. I get closer to them, more of them will be seen as far as the names. And guess what? I can turn the A off, and I can even select from this layer. Now, I'm not going to do that from the church layer level, but I will show you that, again, I can collapse. You see this little icon on the right-hand side right here, this ellipse? I can collapse and expand these menus simply by clicking there. There is a standard layer, and this is going to become very valuable when you say, I want to learn more about this particular area. So I can do everything from a census block group, and you'll notice that it lets me see every census block group. I can come in and say, I want to see census tracts, which are larger groupings. Either of you ever worked in a census, a government census?
Not in government census, but I've used this in the government before. Yeah.
All right. So one of the things I would tell you is that if I wanted to do a particular, I'm going to go back out, zoom back out. Oh, now then you can see all of those census tracts. And if I zoom back in and I turn on the A for census tracts, it now actually gives me the number that the government has set for that particular census tract. Most of you both probably know that census tracts and census block groups, number one, they use when they do censuses, but more importantly, they use that to assign how many senators, how many congressmen, how many government representatives get assigned to an area. And it ends up being because of the knowledge that they know about that census tract or that census block group. So I can come in again and use this layer button to select from the layer. And guess what? If I want to select that census block group, if I hold down my shift key, guess what I can do? I can select multiple census block groups, and then I can treat that like a shape. Remember that word shape, because you're going to find that to be very valuable, especially when it comes to doing queries. And it's actually the flashing light is up here telling me what is it that I'm looking at? I'm looking at census block groups. It tells me how many churches are in these 4 block groups, and there aren't any that are in that particular area. But if I click on the layers, it's going to tell me that I'm looking at census block groups, and I actually have them selected there. So here comes Heidi, and I can say, okay, well, tell me about that legend expands to let me see layers and locations, and I can see that detail. Hello, Heidi.
Tim and I were having the best conversation, and I lost track of time. Here I
Well,
am.
we
Thanks,
did.
guys.
We didn't wait on you, and I went ahead and
Good.
hit the record button. So we're giving some
Perfect.
foundational skill sets from that
Yeah.
perspective. So
Yeah,
I'm
I was here
ready
for that. Yeah, I know some of this because I was here that
start.
first session. So just keep
So
going.
if I uncheck or take the A off, you'll find that when I clear the map, guess what happens? I can clear those shapes that I had marked, and it also cleared the census block, census tract numbers from that perspective. Cities, same thing. It'll actually highlight, and you can see cities from that perspective. When I turn on the A, guess what? It tells me what city this is, or what community that is. I can do counties, I can do states, and I can even do zip codes. So if I wanted to learn more about a particular zip code, if I turn on my pointer, then guess what it allows me to do is, again, select by zip code. And if I'm looking for that information and want to know what the zip code is, I can find that information just by clicking the A to see that detail. Once I do that, now I have select those zip codes and I can do reports. You will learn today that having a shape is the first requirement to pull a report. So FYI, you got to have a shape to do a report. So you've seen me now do that, and I'll go ahead and turn off zip codes, and I'll go ahead and again clear my map, as you've now seen me do, to get rid of those shapes that were on the map at that point. Again, learn to collapse your menus because that makes it easier to see details. Let's say that you're doing research for families with children and you want to know where the school districts are. Well, I suspicion for this area, it's probably going to be, it's going to be unified districts. And when I click on the A's, it's going to tell me what the school districts are. Again, I can do research or analytics on these school zones or these school districts if I want to do that from that perspective. So now you've seen layers in this system. Any questions about what I did to get to those layers? Use the map, zoom back out. And now I'm back out to the full map of Diocese of Mid-Atlantic. The next thing that I want to talk about, I'm going to talk about shapes. And I've already begun that conversation when I talked about layers, whether it was census block groups or zip codes or counties or states. Those are shapes as well. But Mission Insight allows me to do basic shapes. So I can do polygons, I can do circles, I can do free drawing of from different shapes if I want to. And I can come down here and say, hey, I want to draw a polygon, I want to draw a rectangle, I want to draw a circle. I can do lines, freehand polygons. So I've got all kinds of tools. But to do this, the next step, I'm going to choose, and I'm not sure which location you guys are in, maybe one of these, because I have some studies that have already been placed on churches. So Heidi, are these guys either one of those?
Yeah, All Saints is the one I uploaded or gave to you to upload. Yeah.
So I chose now a different study, guys. And by choosing a different study, now I am looking at the study of All Saints Church in Woodbridge. Now that I select the study, now with you guys, you're probably going to be study managers just for your parish. So when you log in, you're not going to have access probably to the entire diocese. You'll come in and you'll go directly to your particular parish. So that's where you'll live. That's where you'll work. And so I brought you over here to say the study, the area that I want to focus on now is the Woodbridge All Saints Church. Does that make sense, guys, for you? And you and how you'll use the system.
Yeah, that's the idea. Yes.
All right. So now that I'm centered on All Saints Church, if I come in a little bit, I can zoom in again like we've discussed and zoom back out. I can reset the zoom just like I did when I was looking at the entire diocese. And I can come over and I can go, let's go talk about shapes again. I'm going to go do a radius shape. And I want to do a radius shape from the parish, but I'm not there. So I can't, I mean, I could type in the address if I want to, but I also can say, hey, I'm going to do some work and I'm not at the parish right now. So I'm going to go a point I select on the map and I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that I really do get where the church is sitting and maybe drag a little bit to get it over here. And then when I left click on the parish, it's going to put a data point right there on that parish. And now I can say, hey, I want to do a radius shape and I want to do let's say a 5-mile radius. So I could just come in and say, I want to do a 5-mile radius from the parish. And I can, guess what? Create a shape. And voila, when I collapse this menu, get it out of my way, guess what I now have if I zoom out a little bit? I've got a 5-mile radius around this parish. So now you've seen how I can do a radius shape, which then in turn now provides me with a way to pull demographic reports. And we'll get into all of the different kinds of reports. But until I did that shape, let me do this. I'm going to clear the shape. I'm going to just show you what happens. And it's a question that's going to hit you because you'll forget and not do a shape. And you'll say, man, I'm going to do a report. And guess what? It won't let you do if I go clear this shape and I go over to demographics and I say, I want to pull a predefined report I want to pull for this study area, and I could go and say a particular study area, but then guess what? It will not let me do. It's not going to let me do that predefined report until I have a shape. And right now I don't have a shape selected. So it's not going to let me do that. So I'm going to collapse this again. I'm going to come back and do the exact same thing I just did. So I'm going to do a shape. I'm going to do a radius from an address. I'm doing it a couple of times so you guys can see that. I'm going to recenter my map so that I'm back on the church and zoom in a little bit to get the exact location. Simply click on that location. And now then I can say, let's create that shape. And voila, let's stay 2.5 miles. And now then, sure enough, I can come in and you'll notice I'm a 2.5-mile radius. And now when I go do demographics and say I want a predefined report, it's actually doing the study area of this shape. So now guess what's available? Quick Insight report, generate reports. So a shape is a basic requirement to create a report. That's an important tool to learn about this morning. But let's stay with shapes for a couple of minutes. I'm going to come in and clear that shape. Remember how to do that? And I want to do a different kind of shape. But I need to do a shape now because I want to know where the parishioners live for this church, for this parish. The congregants live for this parish. Mission Insight will allow you to plot the folk in the parish. And I will tell you that there are 3 parts of Mission Insight as I train it, as I understand it, and as I use it. The first thing I want to know when I'm plotting a parish or when I'm looking at a parish is I want to ask the question, who are we? That's a foundational knowledge point of where do our parishioners live? So you're going to be able, and Heidi's already been so gracious to do that. And I'm going to go because I am on this study. She has plotted this parish. It's already here as the congregant's default parish. And I'm going to say, I want to plot everybody in this congregation, in this parish. I could plot them by distance to church or member by means or member, but we didn't put any of that probably. The first time we uploaded, all we put in were names and addresses, city, state, and zip. And so I'm not going to do it any other way except just how it was put in the system. And if I choose to show labels, it'll actually tell you what parishioner lives where. So I'm going to click show labels, and I'm going to plot and give this map the measles. So what I've just done is I have plotted this parish for All Saints Church. Now I'll go back in a second and show you how she did that. But having done that, now if I go up and click on my selection information, it's telling me that that's who I just put in the system. And she uploaded the addresses of 207 parishioners or homes. I guess I should say homes. That's a better way to say that, because it does one data point or geocodes a data point for each address that you upload. So who lives close to All Saints Church? If I come and just click on that data point, guess what? It's going to tell me who lives there and that address. So I can see that detail for anybody in the parish. Now, question that ought to be in your mind is, how did she do that? Well, she uploaded the parish, and she can do it 4 different ways. I could do it from people plot. I could do it from assistant. I'm going to go straight to people plot and say, I want to plot this congregation, but before I can plot them, what do I have to do? I have to upload them. So I'm going to upload this parish. I'm going to upload them for the study that I'm in. The default upload should always be congregants default. Now, it's just been done, and I would recommend that you ought to do that maybe once a year, depending on how fast your community of faith is growing. You might want to do it annually, because there are 3 indicators that I want you to use in uploading your parish. Number 1, I'm looking for active congregants, not deceased congregants. I'm looking for giving congregants. I'm looking for serving parishioners. So when I say I want you to go to your information management system and query and ask who goes, who serves, who gives. And those are the families that I want to include in that, because the better your data, the better your information out of the system. So if I'm uploading people who haven't set foot in the parish in 10 years or deceased folks, yeah, your information is not going to be real high quality from that perspective. So giving, active, serving folk in the congregation. When you pull that list from your information management system, it's going to want you to put them so that the system can geocode these families. Now, I will tell you later, you can come back and add a new people type, and then you could plot that people type. Let's say you wanted to plot all of your givers, your contributors, or you wanted to plot everybody who has joined the parish this year or in the last 12 months. So if you can get it out of your information system, then you can put it up as an upload, so that then you could choose a different people type, and then you can choose what those data points are that you're actually looking for about those parishioners. I'm going to click next to continue this upload, and it wants me to put in a file. Well, before I can put in a file, I've got to put that file in a format that this system understands. So I'm going to come right here and download a template, and I'll actually put that template in your chat box so you guys will have it, but you can always get the template from right here. That template is going to, that ain't it, this is it. This template is going to give you the bottom line, baseline way that you're going to upload this data. You do not want to do two things. You do not want to change the header columns. Don't rename them. Don't change the spelling on them. Don't do anything that's going to make the system say, no, I can't upload that. These are not the right headers. So don't change those. So that's foundation number one. Don't change these header names. Number two, do not delete any of the headers. Leave them just like they are. What you're going to do is you're going to export your information in either a CSV or an Excel format, whatever you use. And then I want you to just go to your Excel sheet or your Google sheet or your CSV file, and I want you to copy and paste first names, last names, address, city, state, zip codes. I'm not interested in any of this other information for this congregant's default file. So copy and paste your Excel sheet, your CSV file into these columns. When you do that, the next thing I want you to do is go click save and create yourself a folder on your computer. And you know that you can do a PC or Mac. Create a folder that's church name, Mission Insite. So then what that provides you for now is that file that then you're going to go back to Mission Insite and you will put in that file name from right here. Click on the paperclip and choose that file name. Having chosen that file name, you don't have to worry about custom attributes because this is the congregant's default. When you do that, you click next. I don't have a file in there, so it's not going to let me click next. But if I put that file in there, I click on next, it's going to immediately parse that file and say, wait a minute, you've got 10 lines of names in your system, no address. Guess what? The system can't do without addresses. So as you bring your data over, you might have brought over some parishioners that didn't have an address or didn't have a zip code or didn't have a state. You may need to clean up your file and it'll actually show you that file on the Mission Insight side, right, Heidi? And then you can clean up those errors so that the system can indeed do its job of geocoding, plotting, if you would, every parishioner in your community of faith. That's the process. When you do that, it's going to send you an email saying, yep, we have your data, we're geocoding it, and usually in an hour or two, if somebody were to put up an upload that was 50,000 names, it might take a little while because you are queued up behind whoever's in front of you. So I have seen it take as long as 24 hours. It is a rare day that it isn't done within an hour or two. When that plot is geocoded, you'll get another email. Your plot is now complete. And so now you can log back in and then you can indeed plot that congregation. Uploading the congregation, the parish, the parishioners is absolutely important to complete what I call is step one of using Mission Insight. That's who are we. Now, that's exactly what you see is this plotted parish for All Saints Church. Let me pause and let you ask questions. Any questions about how I did what I did, or questions about how to do that? As I tell folks, it's pretty easy peasy to get that part done. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit, see where all the parishioners live. Wait a minute, they live a good ways out. And so I can notice that right now, if I click on I and click on Congregants Default, it tells me that 207 parishioners' homes have been geocoded on this map. And if I go back up and do shapes again and do a radius now, and I'll say, yeah, I want to do for the parish. So I'm going to come in, zoom in a bit so I can see where the parish sits. I'm going to say point I select on the map, select the parish, and say I'm going to do a 2.5 mile shape radius around the church, create the shape, And now then I can collapse this and look. And guess what I find now is that 2.5 mile radius. And if I go back to the selection information now, look what it shows me. Yeah, I only selected 59 parishioners, or 28.5% of the community of faith. So, yeah, that's really not enough, is it? I mean, I want to look at more of the parish when I'm doing this. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go back to shapes, bring that out again, and say, yeah, I'm going to clear that shape. And instead, I'm going to choose, let's do a 5 mile radius. When I select on the map again, select the point on the map. I may need to clear the map. I hope I don't have to go all the way back out to clear the map. It may make me. Yep, it did. All right, so give me a second. Now, you guys tell me, how do I plot this congregation? How do I plot this parish? I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
You're muted, Morgan. I'm going to plot him. I'm going to plot congregants default. Show labels if you want to see names with it, and plot it. There it is, back on the map. And now when I go do that layer or that shape, I'll go do radius again. When I select All Saints Church, and I'll say I want a 5 mile radius and create it. And now then, what do we have? If I go back up, notice this is flashing. So it's telling me it's got information for me. And it's telling me that now then, I've now got 75% of the parish instead of 28% of the parish. I will tell you that I normally try to look at a parish and get at least 75, usually 85% of the parish. I really want to get more of the parish in order to have a better understanding of who this community of faith is. This shape, if that's something I'm going to do a lot, I may not want to repeat that every time I do that. So I can open up the shapes window, and guess what I can see? This is the shape that I currently have. And I can come in and say, you know what? I want to save that shape, and I can share it with others in my agencies or just the other staff members that are going to be looking at this study. And if I don't share it, the only people that's going to see that shape is, guess who? Me. So I'm going to save it. And so now then, if I want to go load a saved shape, I now have it. And you'll notice that I have that shape that are only my shapes. And sure enough, there's that 5 mile radius. And I can just reload that shape, or I could trash it if I don't need it anymore. So now you've seen how to create a radius shape in the system. Now, did it get rid of it? It got rid of it from my saved shapes, but it did not take it off the map yet, right? So how do I do that? Clear map, clear shape, and now I'm back to that location. Let me give you one more shape today. I'm going to go to shapes, and I'm going to say, you know what? I don't want to have a basic shape, a radius shape. What I want is a travel polygon. I want to know, how long does it take people to get to All Saints Church? By car, by bike, by bicycle, by walking. Let's do car. And again, I'm going to choose from where. When I select on the map, scroll in, finds All Saints Church, click on the church, and then say, okay, how much time do you want to know about how long it takes people to drive into the church? I'm going to say, I want to know if it takes them 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and 20 minutes. I can change the colors of these shapes that it's about to create. I won't fool with that. But now I have actually said, should have said 20 minutes. I think I probably did that. Now, when I go on down, it says, okay, we're going to do a shape of 5, 10, 15, and 20-minute drive time from that address. I always turn on highest number of points. What it's going to do now is it's going to create shapes for me based on the roads that people will travel on to get to the church. Lowest number of points is not going to give me more intricate road mapping to see that information. But when I click on create shapes, guess what it's going to do is it's going to now create for me actually 4 shapes: a 5-minute, a 10-minute, a 15-minute, and a 20-minute drive time. Guess what I can do? I'll zoom out to where you see all of them, and I can come back up and click on those shapes. And now you will notice that you have that ability, that's what you've just done, and you've created that shape. Now, I can come over to the right-hand side and I can look at this selection now. And what's it saying? It's telling me that if I selected those shapes, it's now going to show me how many parishioners live in a part of that shape. So let me do that one more time, because I want to walk you through that process, because that's an important tool of being able to build a shape. So clear shape, shapes, drive time. How come it keeps going back to 14? I think I'm moving my mouse and causing it to do that. Create shapes. Now then, you will notice that I have that capability, and I can see that shape from there, and I can come back up, and now I see the current shapes. I see the 5, 10, 15-minute, 20-minute drive time. If I come back over to the information selection panel, it's going to tell me that, again, there is in that 20-minute drive time, I can come in and see that 78% of the congregation live there. But I can come in and I can turn off everything but the 20-minute drive time. Let's turn off everything but the 15-minute drive time. I'm doing that with the power button, not the delete button. And so now, guess what I'm seeing is I'm only going to see the parishioners that live within that particular geographic zone from that perspective. And it'll tell me that 56% of the people live within 15 minutes of this church.
Can I ask, so it's 15 minutes and less, or just 15
Yeah,
minutes?
15 and less. Yeah, it's 15 minutes and less. So
Okay.
they're in that circle. But what you can't do is you really are not going to be able to say, well, within a 10-minute and a 15-minute drive time, how many parishioners it find? It ain't going to do that. It's not going to do that. So
Thank you.
it's not going to sum up the total of 10 and 15 minutes. You're only going to look at one of those 4, not. So I can turn back on the 20 and turn off the 15, and then it'll tell me that detail from that perspective. So that's the understanding of how that works from that perspective. And then again, I can zoom in to those shapes, and I can come in and save that particular shape. So any of those you can do, or if you're no longer going to use the 5 or the 10 or the 15, you can delete them, and they're no longer a part of it. And all I see now, guess what, is the 20-minute drive time. And that drive time is specifically based on the roads to get to that address. Now, that's not talking about time of day or how much traffic's on the road, but it's telling you drive time. That's how long it should take. And in this particular instance, 78% of the parish lives within a 20-minute drive time. Does that make sense how I did that to get to drive time? All
Yes.
right. So that is a basic foundational understanding of how to do a shape. One more shape. I'm going to come over, clear the shape. And I'm going to use the analytics terminology that gets used a whole lot in these programs. And I want to do a polygon. So you'll notice that the little polygon options are here as well. Or I can come up here and say, I want to draw a polygon. And here's how you draw a polygon. You just simply come up and start clicking and drawing your polygon that you want to work with. Now, if you wanted to edit it, you may come and click on that with selecting a person. And then I can take and drag any one of these data points. Come on, let me select it. Oh, let's go select this. And then guess what I can do is I can reshape my polygon by doing that. I can also drag and move the entire polygon if I want to from here. So you'll see that you're building a polygon around a particular area, and you can again modify that polygon. And I'm doing that on purpose. So I went out and selected this polygon. What do you think I'm going to discover when I come up here now? Now I'm looking at 84% of the congregation, the parish. If I decide, hey, wait a minute, I'm missing a good chunk of the congregation down here, and I'm going to come down and select so that I include those parishioners as well. And now look at my numbers. 91% of the parish live in that area.
Can it tell you then
So-
what's the radius, like what the
Yes,
mile?
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. If I go up to geographic details, it tells me that square miles, there's 242 square miles, but the perimeter around this shape is only 62 miles. So yes, geographic details is there from that perspective as well. It is a polygon. I can turn it off or turn it on from right here as well. You can see that detail from here, from that perspective. So again, I could come in to that shape, that is my current shape, my polygon, and I can save that shape, and I could actually save the shape as 90% of this church's parishioners. Questions so far? Once you have a shape, once you have your parish plotted, then of course you can come down and start thinking about analytics about this parish. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to do a quick insight report. Boom, generate a report. When I generate a report, you'll notice it's doing so right here at the top of the page. It tells me that it's doing that in just a second. When it gets the engine popped up, it'll give me percentages of how much does it lack of finishing this report. Give it just a moment. Depending on my network and the internet network, it's going to be 29% done. When it finishes this report, based upon who lives in this shape, in this area, it's going to automatically put it in my downloads folder. I'm going to tell you right now, it's saving it as Quick Insight Report 19, 20, 21, 22. It's not putting any kind of labeling on it. It's just a Quick Insight Report. But when I open that report, guess what? It tells me what this report is all about. And it says it's a polygon. It's telling me this is the study area. And it's going to look at two things in this particular report. It's looking at what's called a story view and a theme view. And when it was done, and it's going to look at both a current year estimate, a 5-year projection, and a 10-year forecast. Now, as you might well imagine, a 10-year forecast is not quite as accurate as the current and the 5-year projection are, but we're going to look at that detail. And now I can scroll through this report, and it's going to look at really those two sections. And the story view is kind of what I call the 10,000-foot level view of this information. And then it's going to drill down, and it's going to look at the theme view of population and households, ages, education and career status, diversity, financial resources in that community. And then it's going to talk about how did we come up with that information. And so I'm going to just walk through a little bit and say, okay, compared to the current information in the 10-year future, what can I expect of this area? There's going to be moderate growth in population in that area. Is there going to be school age change? Yeah, not so much. There's going to be some decline in school age kids in that area. How about families with children? About the same. How about education level? High, very high education level in this community. What about diversity? It's a fairly diverse community. Now, all of these are really the 10,000 foot level. And as you drill down and look closer, you're going to see details about that bits of information. What about the median family income? It's higher compared to the state. So how about poverty? Yeah, compared to the state, we're low in this area. This is not necessarily a poverty-stricken neighborhood. And then finally, what about blue collar, white collar work? Closely split, probably 50-50 or thereabouts. What is the largest racial ethnic group? Do you guys know this community? I know you do, Heidi. Do you guys know this area? Surprise
Yeah,
you
we're all
that they
pretty,
say it's a
yeah.
black
Yeah,
community?
yeah, we're pretty close by.
So as I look at that detail, now then it's going to take me down and show me population and household history with 5-year, 10-year projected change. So it's looking from 2010, 2020, 2024, 2029, and out here at 2020, at 2034, yeah, it's a projection. It's about all it is. But even as late as 2029, it's showing both population, it's showing you households, and it's showing you family households. And so I can get a pretty good picture of detail from right here, from that perspective. And it even gives me the numbers about that detail for each of those things for those periods of time. So the analytics are there on that. Now I'm going to make a statement this early in our conversation, and I hope that you'll take it to heart. Graphs are pretty, numbers are great. And if you live on, breathe on, and just absolutely cherish the idea of looking at numbers and graphs, good for you. Now I'm going to make a statement. That is not what Mission Insight is about. I want you to, if you would, bury that mindset that it's about pulling a report. That is not, or as we say in the South, this ain't why you do reports. I want you to understand as you look at a report to let the Holy Spirit guide you. Let God's guidance guide you as to what does this say about our community? How does this mean that we are doing ministry? Who are we doing ministry with? What are our ministries about? Are they meeting the needs of this community? Or do I need to be looking at how are we like the community? How are we unlike the community? How do we need to improve either by budget and ministry options and opportunities? How do we better serve this community? And I will tell you that if you'll develop that mindset as you're thinking analysis of data, it makes your data come to life for your parish. So, population and households. Is there going to be a change? And you'll notice looking from 2020, 2024, it's talking about household changes. And it's talking about, so I'm going to give you an example. I'm looking at this data and I see, yeah, by and large, over 70% of this community in 2024 are married couples with kids. So if there's kids in this community, they got moms and dads. But don't negate looking at, always look at the green study area because that's what you're really interested in. And what do I see in this study area about single moms and single dads? And if I go down just a little bit, what's it telling me between 2024 and 2029? There's going to be a change in numbers of married couples of about 6,300. Yeah, that's going to decrease a little bit from 20 to 29. That married couples with kids is decreasing. But what do you see happening? Not much change in single moms, but what do I see? I see a 2.35% increase or 1,700 single dads more between 2020 and 2029. my heart's telling me and asking me the question, what are we doing in our community of faith for single parents? Are we providing after school programs? Are we providing backpacks for single parent families? Well, maybe for all families, but am I focusing on reaching out to and providing ministry opportunity for nearly, when you add those two together, single moms and single dads in 2024 in this community, what do you see? You add up 16.8 and 7.41. There's a significant contingent of single parents in this community. What ministries are we doing with them? What ministries are we providing for them? So that's just an example, guys. That may not be your heart. That may not how the report speaks to you. But when I see that information, it helps me to begin to formulate and understand who we are and perhaps who we need to be. Age themes. I'm looking at creating a preschool program. I'm looking at creating a school in this particular area. Are the numbers going to support that? So I'm looking at numbers and even ages of numbers of preschool and school age kids in this community. How's that changing in the coming days by population, by year, and phase of life, which is by age? And so as I look at this, what about do I see in 2029? 62,000, or in 2024, 12.1% of the folks are going to be retirement age. Do we need to be thinking about retirement ministries? So what I'm doing with this report is kind of giving you a high level thought about what we provide, for whom we provide. And this church, this community is 70% white collar workers. What about racial ethnicity? It's changed a little bit now that we've gotten here. And it says, okay, look at the Anglo congregation is 35%. But wait a minute, don't negate. Look at this one. What's this telling me? African American is 25%, only 10% behind the Anglo community. So there's a significant number of African Americans, non-Hispanic, but African Americans. But there's another 24% that are what? Hispanic or Latino. Oh, goodness. What do I see? As I look at the numbers and look at the changes, if I see, oh, wait, hang on, something's saying something here to me. What do I see? Nearly 20% of this community speaks only Spanish in the home. If I were looking at the ministries of this church, and I'm not there, so I don't know that I'm not boots on the ground like you guys are. If I saw that, my heart's going to say pretty quickly, wait a minute, what are we doing to reach this community? Now, the kids probably speak English, by the way, but those mamas and daddies that only speak Spanish at home, which means the kids are pretty fluent in Spanish too. Do you have a Spanish mass in that community? Do you have Spanish Bible studies? Do you have linguist capability amongst your staff? All right. I can chase that rabbit all day long, and this report helps me to do that. Now, we ain't going to mosaic segments today. We'll get there. We're not there yet. But that helps you to understand how to begin to look at a report for more than just numbers and pretty graphs. Questions, comments? Does that kind of give you a good foundational introduction into what Mission Insight is all about?
Where have you been all my life?
I
Where have I
know
been on
it's
your life?
really, really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, it is very helpful. We deal with forecasting, and you only can forecast what you know. So, it's one thing to kind of have a sense from your interaction with the community, but having something objective and concrete outside of that. I have a vision meeting coming up Sunday, and believe me, we'll be discussing this.
Your agenda has now changed, perhaps, or
It
has
hasn't changed. It hasn't changed, no, but I'm hoping that my vision is supported by this data.
Good. And I'm going to make two comments.
If not, our
Yeah, go
vision
ahead.
changes. If not, then our
Yeah.
vision.
Yeah, right. Without a vision, guess what happens?
There's
I
a
think
proverb
there's-
about that.
There is indeed. There's a scripture that says, "Without a vision, the people perish." So, I would suggest to you, as I look at this data, I'm learning some things about this community just from this one little report.
Mhm.
We've only touched part one of Mission Insight.
I know.
Mm,
We have so much
mm.
more.
We
And I
haven't
have
even gotten to-
access, David, I'm confirming, I have access, or I have permissions to give them access now, right?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
The only other thing I'm gonna say today is part two is who are we? But part one is who are we, but part two is who are our neighbors.
Mhm.
Not gonna go there today, but I want to compare and look at, are we like our neighbors? Are we unlike our neighbors? How do those two things come together within the system?
So good.
So
Yeah.
we're going to have fun. We have another session scheduled, or do we not?
We
I
do.
think we do. We have
Yeah.
one scheduled. We don't. Okay. When is it, Heidi? You know, quickly.
Yeah, next week on, let's see,
Tuesday.
Tuesday at,
All right.
Tuesday.
So next week, I will take you to who are our neighbors, and we'll look at
Great.
that part of this
and
particular.
in the meantime, we can upload data and you guys can play. I'll right after
I
this,
was
I'm
gonna
gonna,
ask if, yeah, because I want to start
Yeah.
throwing stuff into it.
yeah, I'll make sure I get you access. If I have any problems, I will ask David to help me with that.
Yep, it is 9:30 next week, and we'll continue the conversation with who are our neighbors.
Okay.
The last
Oh,
thing, and I think
uh,
I promised you, if you open the chat box, I'm going
Oh, the
to
template.
leave that template. I should be able to come in and add that template. Come on, upload it.
Did you have a question, Morgan?
Yeah. So Fairfax County has no cities, and it's broken up into 7 supervisors. Will this be able to drill down into the different supervisory areas? Or is that because I
You know how
can
to only if you know how to draw them as a shape, Morgan.
okay.
Because they're not going to be in the system by default with that depth of the VC and shapes. But yeah, you can draw a shape around it. You can pull analysis on it. Yeah, you
Okay.
absolutely can.
That's really good. I was wondering the purpose of the shapes, and that's a good example of where drawing a custom shape is useful.
Right. Yeah.
Well, in
we
fact,
have
you've drawn a shape and you get this analysis and knowledge about that community, but then you look a little deeper and there's one little neighborhood, one little subdivision, and you can go draw a shape within a shape. And then you can do analysis just on that neighborhood.
Wow.
Now, it's
really
not
great.
necessarily about Morgan, it's about that community in which Morgan lives.
Yeah.
So as you're looking at the data, it's not specifically about Morgan, but you understand what I'm doing. I just
Mhm.
put in the chat box and you can
Got it.
download
Got it.
that people upload form. Remember 3 things. Don't change the header. Don't rename the header columns. And just copy in name, address, city, state, zip, save it, and then go about uploading.
Awesome.
Perfect.
God bless. Be well.
All right.
I'll
David,
see
would you
ya.
send me the link to, since I messed up and didn't record to my computer to download this
I'm
video?
going to send you, when it finishes transcoding, I'll send
Perfect.
you the link and you can
Thanks.
download it.
Okay, awesome.
Got it.
All right,
God
thanks so
bless,
much.
guys.
Thank
Nice
you,
to
guys.
meet you. We'll see you next week.
All
Bye.
right, sounds good.
Bye-bye.